About President Trump, sent by the lead FBI investigator on the Mueller probe. Well, now we have our hands on more of this guy's texts, and they are even more troubling than we originally thought. Full details on this in just a moment. And also tonight, more fallout from the Alabama special election. Beware, though, the false conclusions being peddled about marking the end of Trump's agenda, Trump's political agenda, RIP, it's all bull. The real reasons to be learned from the Alabama Senate race are coming up in the Angle. You don't want to miss that. And Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, wow, she says the president is bullying her. What? Plus, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with one of the Republican lawmakers who is pushing for a sort of immigration amnesty when it comes to the DACA kids. But first, our top story, the dramatic testimony today of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein before the House Judiciary Committee.
At the gym today, and some mysterious person stole it and tweeted out all of that. Wow. I guess Anderson's dog ate his homework. Whatever you say, Anderson. All right, that's all the time we have left. Let not your heart be troubled. Laura Ingraham is standing by. Big show tonight.
Hannity, was it on one of the elliptical machines? It just happened to look.
How do you leave your phone unlocked? Because it locks automatically if you don't use it.
Hannity, I like to see you in leg warmers, spandex on like one of the elliptical things. Like how long you've done that, right? Step aerobics. You used to do that in the 80s.
Krav Maga, Kempo, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, street martial arts. That's how I train. I'm not running on a stupid machine hours and hours, bored out of my mind.
I've got to say, I've seen your hand, and it's been broken, fingers broken with mixed martial arts. So I can attest
the latest.
The fact.
If you look at it, this
it's
right there. If you want to pan in on it, this is the latest break.
Yeah,
that
appendage is
it
not
here
attractive.
When I hit somebody. Yeah.
No, that's not attractive.
It's full contact. It's a lot of fun. And
I'm afraid of you. That's all I know, and I'm not really afraid of anyone.
Why do you start in on me? I hand the show over nicely. Laura Ingraham has a great show, and this is what I get.
Well, agreed. By the way, I think you should come. No, Hannity, I think you should come to the studio one night on one of those painted horses, like Moore came in. Wouldn't that be fun in Manhattan? You just like roll right down 6th Avenue. Come on, that would be. I want to see that.
Okay. By the way, it's New York City. Every liberal in the world will be there. Good luck.
All right, Sean, you take care. All right,
have a good show.
All right, and welcome everybody to the Ingraham Angle from Washington. All right, last night we told you about some highly disturbing text messages about President Trump sent by the lead FBI investigator on the Mueller probe. Well, now we have our hands on more of this guy's texts, and they are even more troubling than we originally thought. Full details on this in just a moment. And also tonight, more fallout from the Alabama special election. Beware, though, the false conclusions being peddled about marking the end of Trump's agenda, Trump's political agenda, RIP, it's all bull. The real reasons to be learned from the Alabama Senate race are coming up in the Angle. You don't want to miss that. And Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, wow, she says the president is bullying her. What? Plus, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with one of the Republican lawmakers who is pushing. But first, our top story, the dramatic testimony today of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein before the House Judiciary Committee. Now, Mr. Rosenstein is the man who appointed Bob Mueller as special counsel to lead the Russia probe, and today he doggedly defended his choice, not really surprising. But even as these alarming pieces of evidence are emerging about the rank anti-Trump bias in the investigation. Now, we told you about some of it last night when we reported on the text between FBI agent Peter Strzok and his gal pal and colleague Lisa Page. She also works at the FBI. So in the text, Page calls then candidate Trump a, quote, loathsome human being, while Strzok referred to the future president as, quote, an idiot. I mean, that's kind of run-of-the-mill liberal stuff, right? But bear in mind, Strzok's the guy who led the Hillary Clinton email server investigation, so I'm sure he was really tough on that. And he interviewed Hillary in the one pre-4th of July interview she did. He interviewed Huma Abedin, okay? He's a busy man. And later, he was involved in the Russia probe. I mean, the guy is like Zelig. He's everywhere. But there's more. On August 15th of last year, Strzok texted Page, "There's no way Trump gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event that you die before you're 40. Now, my friends, it's one thing to have a political opinion. It's quite another thing for members of America's top law enforcement agency to discuss ways to prevent Donald Trump from being elected president. Now, we should note here that Strzok was removed from the Mueller probe after FBI officials became aware of these texts. But I say there must be more to the story, and today Republicans demanded real answers from Rosenstein.
What's it going to take to get a second special counsel to answer these questions and find out, was Peter Strzok really up to what I think he was?
An inspector general has 500 employees and a $100 million budget, and this is what he does.
What kind of text message did you have to see before you say it's time for a second special counsel?
We take very seriously the concerns of 20 members of this committee or one member of this committee, but we have a responsibility to make an independent determination.
Would you have any opinion on the lack of the fruit from the poisonous tree that might have been erased by Peter Strzok?
Well, as a legal matter, Congressman, I can tell you that if evidence is tainted, then that would raise a concern for me. But typically, our cases would be prosecuted based upon witnesses and documents.
How, with a straight face, can you say that this group of Democrat partisans are unbiased and will give President Trump a fair shake?
We recognize we have employees with political opinions, and it's our responsibility to make sure those opinions do not influence their actions.
This is not just political opinions. This is disgusting, unaccountable bias, and there's no way that could not affect a person's work. Were you aware of just how biased Mr. Strzok was?
No, I was not.
Joining us now for a reaction here in Washington, Republican Congressman Ron DeSantis. He's a member of that House Judiciary Committee. And in New York is James Freeman, assistant editorial page editor of the Wall Street Journal and a Fox News contributor. Congressman, that was wild there, because you saw Rosenstein in this testimony today, and he looked both frightened and he was very defensive in supporting this probe, saying, look, he checks in with me, I check in with him, and it's all going to be okay. They're taking care of it. Were you convinced?
Well, no. I mean, you go back to when he appointed Mueller to begin with. He didn't even identify a crime. He said, oh, Comey's doing a counterintelligence investigation. Just go try to find something. So I think he made a mistake from the beginning. He criminalized politics, basically. Now he sees in the face of these text messages. We have the lead agent on Hillary, who exonerated her, and then the lead agent on the Russia case saying, yeah, maybe he doesn't get elected. Yeah, we're talking in Andy McCabe's office, who's, by the way, the deputy director of the FBI. This is in the middle of the campaign. But we can't, the FBI, take that risk. We need an insurance policy to prevent Trump from getting elected. There's one thing to have a bias. There's one thing to have an appearance of impropriety. This is actually taking a bias and basically saying you're going to use the machinery of government to prevent the American people from making a choice. That's very disturbing.
James, you wrote about this today in the Wall Street Journal, and you noted that the Strzok email, when he raised that issue of the insurance policy, that really jumped out at you. Tell us.
Well, yeah, it goes way beyond having an opinion. It goes way beyond extreme bias or even hatred of the president and his supporters, which is what you see in some of these emails. It really is suggesting that there was action taken, that I think a reasonable reading of it is that these people kind of viewed their role as protecting America from the consequences of its political decisions. That's not their job. Their job is to enforce the law. Now, I think if there's a more innocent explanation of this, I imagine Mr. Strzok will have a chance to try and provide it. I think Mr. DeSantis may know better, but I would expect a number of subpoenas coming out of the House Judiciary Committee to talk to all of these people we've seen mentioned, showing their anti-Trump bias, their activism on behalf of of the Democrats, and I think that this is topic A for future hearing.
Yeah, they look like they're, these are MoveOn.org kind of activists. Or it sounds like it's like, well, okay, it's almost a conspiracy inside the FBI to do something to stop this president or this candidate from gaining steam. And Congressman DeSantis, I want to talk to you on this. You want some of these people to be subpoenaed. The documents aren't as forthcoming as they should be, coming fast to you, to the committee as they should be. But will you be able to get Peter Strzok to testify?
I think we will eventually. So remember, Bruce Orr is a high-ranking Justice Department official. He just got demoted because he was meeting with Christopher Steele, who Fusion GPS paid to do the Trump dossier before the election, and then meeting with Fusion GPS after the election. Oh, by the way, the guy's wife works, guess what, at Fusion GPS. So I think you have a confluence of a number of people in the Justice Department, a number of people in the FBI, knee-deep in the dossier. So, yes, we need to know how did they get the dossier? Did they pay for the dossier? Rosenstein wouldn't tell us whether your tax dollars were used for the dossier. So we need all of those answers. I think Strzok needs to come in. I think Orr needs to come in. I think McCabe needs to come in. And we got to put him under oath.
What kind of conversations are they having in the offices? Don't they have, like, bad guys to stop, like real criminals and real work to do at the FBI? But they're sitting around agonizing about whether Donald Trump will win the presidency, apparently. And they're like, oh, my God, he's the worst ever. And what if he wins? And we've got to stop it. And you Cape Crusader, what are you going to do? The whole thing is just, it's embarrassing for the FBI. So all of these people, and James, I want to hear from you, all of these people, Republicans and Democrats, who trotted out Bob Mueller as an unimpeachable arbiter in a special counsel prosecution or investigation. You could never question him because he was a Vietnam vet. He was bipartisan respect. I got to say, in watching this thing play out, I'm not impressed. I'm just not impressed with how he's handled this. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Yeah, it's hard to think of what team he could have assembled that would give his investigation less credibility. And you're talking about what they're talking about in the office. I mean, remember, these are careful, experienced lawyers. This is what they're putting in writing, in text to each other. You can only imagine what they're saying about Trump and their plans for him when they're not recording it. But I think that also that discussion within the office, and it comes up in the context of them talking about the insurance policy, not sure what that means, seems to be some effort to keep Trump from being president.
FISA, that's what my gut is, it's a FISA warrant.
It raises the question, who else? Yeah. So we've been talking about Strzok and Page.
Lisa Page getting that FISA warrant, maybe pushing that FISA warrant. If I had to guess right now, it sounds like it's something out of Homeland or 24, the old 24 show. But it sounds like, all right, you go in and get the FISA thing. We'll monitor what the campaign's doing, and if we have to bring out the big dogs at FISA, we'll do that. I mean, the whole thing.
And given Strzok's job, he's probably the guy who would do that. I mean, get the FISA warrant, given his counterintelligence role. Who knows? Exactly.
Well, guys, let's bring in two legal experts for more reaction. Could there have been a conspiracy at the heart of the Mueller probe? When you really read these text messages, and we'll learn more from Raleigh, North Carolina, we're joined by Saul Weisenberg, who was the #2 attorney in Ken Starr's Bill Clinton investigation, and here in Washington, Scott Bolden, an attorney and Democratic strategist. Saul, let's start with you. You've been pretty much out there saying, well, Mueller is a good guy. He's running this investigation down the line. We've had some criticism, but do these new text messages of the lead investigator in this investigation, does it give you any pause?
It doesn't give me any pause about Mueller. It's extremely disturbing. That text that you talked about, the text from August where he talks about the insurance policy, is by far the most devastating thing that we have seen about how the Bureau behaved during the 2016 investigation of Hillary's emails. Now, I will say this about Bob Mueller. I never worked with Mueller. I've talked to many people about Mueller. I have many friends who worked for him. I have friends who worked with him. I have friends who worked over him. Whether they like him or don't like him, every single one of them defines him, talks about him as a very honorable man. But he's tone deaf, and he was naive here very naive
Saul,
and/or tone deaf, and is in the team he assembled.
Well,
and
Saul,
let me tell you
this,
one thing that people are. Well, one thing, very important thing. Sorry to interrupt. That people are forgetting about Strzok, and this was a mistake Mueller made. Strzok, even before these texts were found, never should have been assigned to the Trump investigation. The agent who was a top agent in the Hillary email investigation
makes no sense.
Never should have been assigned in the first place to that.
Well, here's what. Now, Scott, I want to ask you this. What I would, if I were Mueller, and it was all the scrutiny coming on the investigation, we had this Strzok, we have Jeannie Rhee, we have Andrew Weissman, we have this Bruce Orr character whose wife worked for Fusion GPS. What I would do is I would either take a 2-week pause on the investigation and say, look, we're going to bring in not an independent counsel, but an independent arbiter just to go through all our staff and to make sure this is buttoned down now, so everyone has more belief in this investigation. Let's take a pause for 2 weeks. But he did not vet these guys for political agendas. And the appearance of a conflict, in my mind, is just as important as a legal matter as an actual conflict of interest here. This is the appearance of a conflict, and I don't believe Mueller did his job in vetting this team. You can respond.
Well, legally and from a DOJ regulatory standpoint, he doesn't have to do that, nor would it be legal for him to do that. That being said, a 2-week delay wouldn't get to the bottom of this. It's not a problem for you to have a political support or to have a political identity. You can't not hire someone because that's double negative, forgive me. You can't not hire someone because they are a Democrat or a Republican. You'd have nobody to hire. But until it becomes a political bias. Now, Strzok's emails are problematic. I'm a former prosecutor. I got to tell you, I've been involved on both sides on politically sensitive investigations. But look at what Mueller did. Mueller addressed it. He removed him from the investigation once he found out. And let's not forget, Strzok is not the only one making decisions, whether it's Hillary Clinton or whether it's Donald Trump. Yeah, of course he is. But you operate on documents, you operate on witnesses, and he's working with several other people.
He's talking about an insurance policy to stop Donald Trump from becoming
removed. What else would you have him do?
Well,
the ethics committee ought to investigate him too, by the way. DOJ can investigate him.
Scott, why is the guy, as Saul, and you can jump in here, almost out of time, why is the guy who was Hillary's investigator in the Hillary email scandal, why is he hopping over to the Trump investigation?
Because that's not a conflict.
He never should have been. He never should have been.
I may not have made that decision, but it's not a conflict.
Hold on. Saul, go ahead.
He never should have been. He never should have been. He never should have been, because as soon as the Hillary email investigation was over, President Trump, then candidate Trump, and other Republican candidates started criticizing very harshly the FBI. So to put that guy who was harshly criticized before you knew about any of these texts, to put that guy then in charge of an investigation of Trump, the very man who's criticizing him, is a mistake. Now, Mueller didn't do that. That was another gift from Andrew McCabe.
Okay, if Mueller is the be-all and end-all.
But wait a minute. Mueller should have taken him off. I've supported Mueller, but when Mueller took office,
I don't know why you're supporting Mueller all this time. I think Mueller is the most oversold person I've ever. He's like on Mount Rushmore for every Republican and Democrat. I've never heard more people say Bob Mueller. I mean, has he never made a mistake?
He's not perfect, but he's honorable. He's
exactly. Well, a lot of people who are honorable who have ended up doing really stupid things for the country. Well, I got to tell you,
Laura, you're presuming something politically wrong with this.
Yeah,
and you don't have bias. You've got some facts, but you've got to investigate that and let ethics do that. But you don't have the bias there. And until that gets proven, there are no mistakes being made here.
We have to wait until the impeachment report is sent up to Capitol Hill. We're going to wait for that to find out that like 7 of them were sending text messages.
You can't presume political bias because of their political leanings.
He's not authorized to send an impeachment report. He's not even authorized to do that.
He's not even going to do that,
Laura, you're missing something really important.
That is really important.
That everybody is missing.
Go, Saul.
The role of McCabe Andrew McCabe is behind a lot of this. He was deputy director and still is deputy director. He's the person whose wife got $700,000 from Terry McAuliffe's back.
I think all roads lead back to him.
He should not, but he should not be in his position now.
Those are facts, but that's not the result.
This whole thing is one of the biggest scams ever. I'm sorry, guys. You're much more judicious than I am about
bias,
no bias. No, it's all good.
No bias.
All right,
Wait till
you and I are going to go tequila shots, and I'll get the real truth out of you. All right, gents, I appreciate it. In a moment, I'm going to reveal the real reason Roy Moore lost that Alabama Senate race and the lessons that need to be learned. Stay right there. Of tonight's Angle. Oh, there's a lot of finger pointing today, blaming the president, blaming conservative populism, blaming Steve Bannon, or maybe Mitch McConnell for the fall of Roy Moore. The truth is, the race had zero to do with substance and everything to do with salacious allegations and a deeply flawed candidate. And for those trying to use Moore's defeat to damn conservative populism, remember, the populist issues that Trump won on were literally, I don't think, no time when I peeked in on the election did I hear any of them discussed. Not immigration, not trade, not really tax cuts, not really deregulatory efforts. None of those things were ever really debated in the Alabama race. Now, a man that many believe could run against Doug Jones in 2020 said this on my radio show today.
There was no policy discussion in this election. I mean, there was no substance to this. There was no discussion of Trump's policies or Roy Moore's policies, and they did everything they could to make sure that Doug Jones' policies weren't discussed. It was all about scandal.
This was all about the allegations against Moore and, of course, his missteps. The volatile nature of this special election in Bama was a joke from its inception. Now, Luther Strange could have stayed in the seat until 2018, but once that special election was announced by the governor, Mitch McConnell and his pack rushed in and they protected, or tried to protect, Strange rather than just let the people duke it out, sort it out. Probably would have been a better path. Consultants for Congressman Mo Brooks were reportedly warned that they should not work against Luther Strange. Reports are they were actually threatened. Then there was the hokey-pokey quality of the president's involvement. First, the president put his right leg in for Strange, and then he took it out, and then he kind of put it in for Moore, and then he did a robocall. But still, the attempts to pin this, I think this whole loss on Trump, or his agenda certainly, are just ridiculous. It's predictable. Now, Alabama remains Trump country. Everybody I know lives there, friends for 30 years. Like, people love Trump down in Alabama. The voters there are some of the most vocal anywhere on the issues that got Trump elected: immigration enforcement, lower taxes, of course, Second Amendment rights. And the bottom line is they just didn't like Roy Moore. The man, by the way, who lost the governorship there twice, and including coming in fourth against Robert Bentley, who was not exactly, Ronald Reagan in his personality or approach. Look, as Matt Drudge tweeted last night, just too much crazy and nerve-wracking times. There is a limit. Well, I agree with them. And I think the pinball machine hit tilt, and Alabamans just wanted the game to end, wanted it over. And also, Trump didn't win by being like Roy Moore. Remember, thinking back on the election, when you look at Roy Moore, you look at Trump and their approach, they are very, very similar. Trump was all about making America great again. Roy Moore was kind of about making Alabama grimace again. Now, here's the lesson for Republicans. You cannot fight everyone at once. You just can't. You can't take on the Democrats, the media, the entertainment industry, and the establishment of your party unless your candidate has the money and the bravado and the media savvy to win. That's what Trump did. But it's a rare skill set. Not many people have it. And that kind of hand-to-hand political combat demands candidates who are fearless, and they're unafraid to do interviews a month before an election. And I don't mean with a 12-year-old reporter, okay? You gotta be able, if you're afraid of Good Morning America, you're probably not going to be able to beat your Democratic counterpart. And the other takeaway, by the way, is the critical need for Republicans to engage minority voters, especially in parts of the country that are traditional. We said this, we've been saying this, frankly, since Trump was inaugurated. Keep doing those kind of campaign-style events, because remember when he went to that black church in Detroit during the election?